My subject is animal testing, and the advocate's major claim is that animal testing is harmful and unnecessary. And she defines animal testing as the testing of either cosmetics or medicines on non-humans, which I completely agree with, but she doesn't state that 83% are tested on rats, mice, and rodents, and 3 out of 1,000 deal with dogs, cats, and monkeys. And her supporting claims were that 1, animals go through painful and deadly tests, 2, animals live in terrible conditions, and 3, animal testing is a failure. In response to her first claim that animals go through painful and deadly tests, she uses the evidence of the Draves test, and this is actually like they put eye drops in rabbits to see if they what they react like, what it reacts like, and it's actually changed throughout the years, and she fails to mention that. And Nobel Prize winner Professor Sir Andrew Huxley describes the test as follows: a substance expected from its chemical nature to be seriously painful must not be tested in this way. The test is permissible only if the substance has already been shown to not cause pain when applied to skin, and pre-screening tests are recommended, such as a test on isolated and perfused eyes. Permission to carry out the test on several animals is given only if the test has been performed on a single animal and a period of 24 hours has been allowed for injury to become evident. And she just fails to mention that the test has transformed over the years, and there's now regulations on that. And the Animals Act of 1986 regulates the use of laboratory animals in the UK, and the experiments are only carried out if certain criteria is met. And if there's no other way to get this testing done, that's when they use animals, as animals are not their first choice to test on. And the advocate argues that 9% of animals tested end up dead, and that's between 25 and 50 billion. And I'm not sure where she gets this evidence, if it's like the U.S. or the world, it's not really stated. But UnderstandingAnimalResearch.org reports that 3 million animal procedures a year occur in the UK, and 85% of these are rodents. But there's 70 million rodents roaming the streets of the UK. So compare that to 3 million, it's really not that many animals being tested on. And in 2005, it was reported that 5,373 dogs were used in the UK medical research, and this is actually less than half of the number that are put down at the pounds. So if you just compare the numbers, you can see that really, compared to how many animals there are in the world and how many are tested on, it's really not that many. And in response to her second claim, that animals' living conditions are terrible, people that work in the labs are humans too. They're scientists, vets, animal carers. They don't want to see animals die. They just want to see advancement in science. And according to homeoffice.gov, they say that all labs granted a license must adhere to a strict code of practice, which stipulates minimum standards for animal housing and environment, animal care and health, minimize breeding of surplus animals, and human killing. And there's actually unannounced inspections done monthly, and she just fails to realize that there are regulations on what goes on in the lab. And in response to her third claim, that animal testing is a failure, the advocate argues that animal testing is inhumane and inadequate, when in all actuality, all mammals, including humans, have the same organs. They work in the same way. They're controlled via the bloodstream and nervous system. Although there are minor differences, the overwhelming similarities outweigh these differences, so it's not inaccurate to be testing on humans or animals. And the Australian and New Zealand Council for the Care of Animals reports that many veterinary medicines are the same that are used for humans, such as antibiotics, painkillers, and tranquilizers. So again, humans can use the same products as animals. And according to the U.S.-based Foundation for Biomedical Research, animal research has played a vital role in virtually every major medical advance of the last century, for both human and veterinary health. From antibiotics to blood transfusion, bypass surgery, and joint replacement, practically every present-day protocol for the prevention, treatment, care, and control of disease, pain, and suffering is based on knowledge attained through research with lab animals. So without these lab animals, we wouldn't have certain medicines that we have today. So to refute the idea that animal testing is harmful and unnecessary, I argue that 1, using animals is a last resort, and there are other techniques that can be used which scientists look at before they test on animals. 2, that people dealing with the animals care about their welfare, and there are laws regulating what goes on in the lab. And 3, due to animal testing, we have medicines that are beneficial for both animals and humans. So therefore, animal testing is very much necessary.
All right, the claims are labeled very clearly. You set up a counterclaim on the first point as an illustration right away, and you talk about the Dre's test, and I thought the information that you had there was pretty solid. You've got an explanation about what the regulations are and how permission has to be required, so you're attempting to minimize the impact of the advocate's argument there. The argument about the number of animals that are involved, and you do the same kind of thing with the rats. I'm not exactly sure that rats are the people or the animals that most people are concerned about in this situation, so maybe that should be an argument to start with, but then putting it into a numerical context I guess is okay. I thought you did the same kind of thing with the dogs, which are more likely to be the kinds of animals that people are concerned with, although the bunnies are cute too, I guess. On the lab conditions argument, you make a presupposition about the researchers, and I think it's probably a safe presupposition, but I think you could use a little bit more information on that. You've got a better argument that follows that up that talks about the regulations and inspections, and I thought that was pretty solid. The argument on the third point about its adequacy in terms of application or benefits, given the claims that you presented, I think you've done a good job. What's missing from the argument, I think, is an analysis of the advocate's grounds and warrants. We've got good counterclaims, and they appear to be responsive to the claims that are being presented by the advocate, but we don't get much contrast in the arguments, in other words, between the position that the advocate's taken and how they've proved their point versus how you're proving your point. We just have the claim comparison, and although the claim comparison, I think, favors a lot of the things that you're saying, I think the other would support it quite a bit more. On the presentation, you did have very limited eye contact, but the vocal delivery compensates a little bit so it doesn't sound quite as much like you're reading because there is some variation in the delivery there. Thank you much.